I know it's lame and cliche, but would love to know in the comments or in the chat, what is your favorite Thanksgiving side dish? Favorite Thanksgiving side dish? Let us know in the chat. If you're watching live in the group, hit the thumbs up, please and thank you. And if you want to join us in the Zoom room, you can register at wakeup.realestate/m. Wakeup.realestate/mm is how all these great folks here are joining us in the Zoom room. Green bean casserole, stuffing, deviled eggs. All right. A couple of votes for stuffing. Keep those coming. It's always fun. Today, I want to share how I go about what I would call demographic circle prospecting. And what I mean by that is, instead of simply taking a grouping of all the homes surrounding a particular property, how I layer on some additional filtering so that I'm reaching out to folks that might be more inclined to sell. And the scenario that I'm going to use for that is actually a listing that we just went under contract this weekend, but I'm repping the buyer. I'm repping the buyers. I figured it'd be fun and interesting to do that because it highlights the fact that you don't have to reserve pending and just sold marketing to when you're the listing agent because you're participating in the transaction. So I'm going to highlight some of the resources and technology and so forth that we've been talking about on these sessions over the last few weeks and months and give a very practical application. So I'm going to build the list. I'm going to append data to the list through skip tracing. I will build out the postcards that we're going to send. And then I will talk through and show you the workflow or marketing campaign that's going to send an email, a text message, a ringless voicemail, but I'm not going to launch that until next week. So I'll show everybody one that I'm just going to copy and deploy. And then here's the nice thing, this work that I'm doing to build the list, etc., once we actually settle, gives me another reason to reach out to these folks as well. So I'm going to let this audience know, hey, your neighbor's property just went pending under contract. And then once it sells, we'll hit them up again. And I don't know if the listing agent is hitting up the folks in the neighborhood, but I don't really care because what I'm going to send is going to be better and more interesting, at least than what I see as far as this type of marketing. So with that said, I'm going to share my screen and we'll get right into it. If you have a question, especially more so in the Zoom room, I'll be keeping an eye over here with the comments. But if you've got a question and I'm cranking away and I don't see it in the chat, you can open up your audio and interrupt me, right? This is intended to be interactive and it's not some formal thing that we're going through. And I'm currently distracted by Lisa saying cornbread dressing is her favorite side. I've never had that, but that sounds delicious. Anyway, so I will be in this process here. I'm going to be utilizing a number of different resources from the doc here that you can get at growwithjosh.com/tech. Growwithjosh.com/tech. Full transparency. All of the links in here are my affiliate links. And also, I use all of these things, which is why I unabashedly promote and recommend that you check them out. Okay. It also helps pay for the 4 kids that just never stop eating in my household. They just never ending. And we are going to use thanks.io for the postcards. We are going to use PropStream. And by the way, I have Burton coming back next Wednesday to do another session on PropStream for a couple of different reasons. The big one being their user interface is different than they've made an upgrade since he was on a few weeks ago. And it might be a month ago. And so you'll see that today, but I'm going to bring him back on so he can do a deeper dive on that. So he'll be back next week. I'm going to use that to build the list. That's actually step 1. So we're going to build the list. While the skip trace is happening, I'm going to build the postcards. I already built them, but I just need to make a version for this particular list. I can tweak a couple things. And then I will show the email, text, and we'll listen to the ringless voicemail that I will deploy early next week as part of this. And then we'll open it up for questions and feedback, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, and I'll also be using, so part of this process on the marketing front is when a homeowner engages with the postcard or even some of the digital marketing, they'll be sent to their value dashboard and offer dashboard with iList. And I'll be using Smarty's ProEdge Marketing CRM for the email, text, and ringless voicemail, etc. Okay. I am going to, oh, look at that. Buy 1 month, get 1 month free with PropStream. Didn't even know. But you can get a free trial. If you're not already using PropStream, you can get a free trial at growwithjosh.com/PS. Growwithjosh.com/PS. The link is also in that document. I'm going to go ahead and log in. And what I'm going to start is the address of the property that we just went under contract with. So I'm going to pop that in so that we get the pin drop on the map. So here is the neighborhood. I'm going to zoom out just a bit, and I am going to use the draw feature here, or I don't know what they call it, but there's a little pencil feature here up top left. And I am going to draw a polygon or whatever as step 1 in the process. Okay. So now, depending on how you're applying this, you might choose an entire zip code and start there, right? There's any number of ways that you can start, but this is demographic circle prospecting. So I'm picking a neighborhood and I want to be able to select that specific neighborhood, which is why I'm using the draw function. So I choose that top left, I left click, and then I can start drawing my area here. And I'm going to go way up here, go way out here, down here, down here, and down here. So I'm going to start. Now, I don't have to be super precise with this. Now, in this case, I don't have to be super precise because the areas outside of it are like farmland. And so the additional filtering that I'll do will knock this stuff out. Okay. If you're really trying to if it's an area where there's like neighborhoods that run into each other and stuff, you might have to be a little more precise with the way you're drawing it. You may have to adjust accordingly, I guess is the point. So next, I've got it closed, I think, even though you can still see this, but if I hit the search button, it'll stop it there. So currently I have 419 properties selected. I don't want to hit all 419 on this. So the next step is I'm going to go to the filter dropdown. And here's where you can start to see the UI looks different. If you've not been in PropStream or in a while, or if you were on the session last month, I think it was last month. I was driving to Florida, so it must have been in October. Anyway, the UI looks a little bit different. They've updated it. It looks, I don't know, it's a little more pleasing to the eye, but it does take a little bit of learning. You got to play around with some things, but the actual filtering options are the same. They just look a little bit different. And the first thing I always do is I go to MLS and I want them to be not on the market. I want them to be not on the market. And so now it went from 419 to 411. So there was 8 properties in that box that are on the market. The next thing I want to do is property details. I'm going to choose residential, and I'm going to choose single family. 378. Okay, so I'm whittling it down. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go owner information, and I'm going to choose individual. I only want the individuals. 375. So that clipped off 3 more. Okay, so I'm eliminating if the property's in a trust or a corporation, etc. And now, actually, I'm going to backtrack for a minute here. So I'm going to stop my screen share and I'm going to backtrack with a minute. I would recommend that when you're doing this, you start with at least an idea of how many you want this list to be. Okay. And I don't have a perfect formula for you, but the way I try to think about it is a percentage of the commission that I am projected to get from the property that I'm circle prospecting around. So if you're in an area where it's a higher average home price, You might be okay with 200, 300, 400 homes that you want to deploy this marketing to, or maybe it's not only higher price, but it's also very densely populated. If you're in an area where your average home price is very low, and therefore your commission is going to be low, you might decide, I only really I want to hit the 50 to 100, maybe, that are through these filtering processes and so forth, most likely to sell. So there's no perfect answer, but I do think it's useful before you start doing this to at least think that through. So you have an idea, you have a certain general target in mind. How much do you want to whittle down the list that you're going to deploy this marketing to? And so for me, I'm thinking 100, maybe 150, somewhere in that neighborhood. Okay. And so I'm already in what are we at? We're at 375, 375. So we're going to continue to filter down a little bit here. I'm going to and this is where I get confused sometimes. Okay, so owner information and occupancy, years of ownership. I'm going to choose 10 just to see how that impacts the list. There you go. Now I've got it down to 104, but I'll show some other thoughts on this filtering before I just roll with that. 1 second. Excuse me. So one thing that I like to do with this is one where, include unknown sales dates. I like to include that because in my market, for whatever reason, and it's probably because this county in particular is pretty rural, the data is not as updated and accurate. And generally speaking, what I've seen is when I include unknown sales date, it likely is. So if I want owners that they've owned the property for 10 or more years and I include the unknown, those unknown sales date and this is just through my own trial and error, they're almost always 10 or more years, but for whatever reason, it wasn't recorded. So like this 54 Independence, if I go and look at this property, my guess is they've owned it. Let's see here, tags, MLS. If I had to guess, they're the original owners of this, so they've owned it for 20 years. Maybe not. But generally speaking, in my experience with this, usually that will get me more of the target audience. Now, you may find in the areas that you're searching, you might just have to play with that filtering, okay? Because the data you will find different data based upon the county and how they report that information, et cetera. And so I know this is a little tangent, but another, for example, is you can filter in here by divorce listings, bankruptcy, et cetera. But if you notice, they don't show up for me. And even throughout the entire county, this data just is not reported in a way that PropStream is able to get that. However, in your area, it might be available. So I've got this down to 156. Other ways that I might think about filtering, I actually like this list of 156, and that's probably what I'm going to roll with. But just to get your gears turning a little bit, I might also look at mortgage or value and equity as other means of filtering. So I might go value and equity, and I might say I want them to have at least, where's the S? At least, I want them to have at least 20% equity. I think I'm actually going to leave that in because those 7 that have less than 20% equity, they might not be able to sell. So that's another way that you can look at sort of whittling down the list or narrowing down that list. And I'll throw in one other thing, and then I'm going to open it up for Q&A or any points specific to this before I submit it for skip tracing. One other thing to consider here is maybe I want to try and find the owners in this neighborhood that could potentially sell with their assumable mortgage. So maybe I choose FHA and VA, and USDA is not an option here. So there are 16 that, according to this, have an FHA or VA loan. For whatever that's worth, I'm going to remove that filter, but I just thought I'd bring it up as something to think through. So I'm going to deselect those. Before I proceed, does anybody have any questions, thoughts, etc., as far as this step of the process of taking a bigger audience and dwindling it down? Now, you may be in it. You may find that if you are in a densely populated area and it's a very high sale price, you may say, I'm going to hit everybody. You might decide that. I find that getting a little bit more targeted with the marketing makes a ton of sense. Oh, that's cool, James. Is that assumelist.com? What is?
Yeah, you can sign up as a realtor.
I think. Or maybe I'm muted. Hold on. That was probably me.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me? Okay. Oops. Yeah, we're looking for co-living homes, renting by the room, and trying to find ones, especially as an investment that we can assume, which you can assume a VA loan.
Yeah.
Challenges to that too, but yeah, ran across that site. So well, that's cool. PropStream has that in there, so you can filter that out too.
Again, some of that data will, the validity of that data can vary by county and by areas and markets, et cetera, but it's at least interesting and useful and something to play around with. And one thing I'll highlight for everybody, if you get a free trial, growwithjosh.com/PS, you can play around with all this filtering. There are no limitations when it comes to that with the free trial. The limitation with the free trial is while you're on the trial, you can only save up to 50 properties. So if you wanted to do what I'm showing here while on the free trial, you would want to play with the filtering to the point where you got it to 50 properties or less. And you could do what the next couple steps I'm going to show once you get to that 50 or less. And the other thing I'll mention about PropStream, or a couple other things, it's $97 per month after the free trial, and there are no contracts or long-term commitments. You can turn it off for a month and turn it back on, right? They don't lock you in any way, shape, or form. And at the $97 level, you can save up to 10,000 properties per month, which it's very unlikely that anyone watching here is going to go over that. And what I mean by that is this. I'm going to go through the next steps. So now that I've got my 149 that I want to target with this marketing campaign, I'm going to choose right here. I'm going to select all, and I'm going to add to list, and I'm going to call this 45 Independence DCP list. And I like to put the date so I know when I built the list. So I just do the 6-digit dating. And now I've saved that. So that 149 counts towards my 10,000 for the month. So you can see here that I have 9,720 saves remaining this billing period. And your saved quantity will reset to 10,000 on 12/21/24. That's my rebuild date. So for whatever that's worth. So now I've saved that list. The next step is I want to append data to the list. Because right now, if I go, I think it's my properties. Yeah, my properties. And if I go to marketing lists, you can see I've got a whole bunch of them in here. And I choose this. All I have currently is the address of the property and then the owner names and the mailing address if different. Okay, if it's an absentee owned property, my guess is, knowing this community and quite honestly, looking at this here, it's going to be a very high percentage of owner occupant. In fact, every one that I can see here is owner occupied. That doesn't mean that there won't be any non-owner occupied, but the hit rate is very close. And for something like this, even if it's non-owner occupied, I will generally just send it to the actual property address. The postcard, that is. Again, that's getting a little bit into the weeds, but regardless. So that's the list. And I could just take this, export it, and start the postcard campaign. But I'm not just doing the postcard campaign. I'm gonna deploy digital marketing to the list as well. So I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna choose skip tracing. And I'm gonna choose select contacts. And from the group here, I'm gonna choose my list, 149. I'm gonna add selected contacts. I'm going to select all down here and click done. Now you can see there's 149 contacts selected. I'm going to click next. And for $17.76, they will skip trace and go and find email addresses and phone numbers, and they will check those phone numbers against the DNC. Now, I won't actually pay $17.76 because that is the most I might pay if they can for every one of these contacts. And I've rarely, if ever, had a time where they were able to append data to every single one of them. So this is the most that I'm going to spend. I'm going to click place order. This is a DNC, it's a DNC CYA from PropStream. Feel free to read through it, but it's going to tell you who's on the DNC. And what we do is, if the number's a DNC, we just remove it. We don't mess with it at all. And I'll show you what that looks like because it'll be done. The skip trace will be done way before we're done here. So now that order is placed. And while that is happening, in other words, while the skip trace is happening, what I want to do is I'm going to pivot and log into my thanks.io account. And we're going to build the postcard that I'm going to send to the list. Any questions before I do that? Any questions or comments before we go ahead and do that? And I'll just make sure that I'm not missing anything in the chat. Where is the chat?
I was going to say, Josh, there's I'll put it in the chat, leadfusionlists.com, fusion with a Z. It's cheaper than skip tracing in PropStream, but you'd have to export. But if it's a big list, it might be worth saving.
There are other places, DataZap or DataZap Tomato. That's a great place also, and it's definitely cheaper. The problem is, for me, on a list like this, it gets into what's your time worth, because you have to do a lot more manipulating the data to get it. And I would agree, if you've got a lot of data, you might look at something like what James posted there, or DataZap with 2 P's, DATAZAPP. For this particular application, I've just found it most convenient and removing the most amount of friction by just doing it right in there. But certainly you can find cheaper solutions when it comes to actually appending data through skip tracing, no doubt. Yep, good. So I'm going to go and find my pending postcard example here. So I'm going to open this up. So this is the postcard that I'm going to build out for this audience. And notice it is on purpose ugly and minimal. I can tell you that this postcard style and template works. Can you get fancier with it? Can you put logos and all kinds of stuff on it? You can. Just know that from my experience, and I've been sending ugly yellow postcards since about 2005, not consistently since then, but that's when I first started using simple, ugly yellow postcards like this. And I can just tell you over and over that it works. What also makes this format work incredibly well is the picture on this postcard will be of their property. And though this will be the address of the property that's pending, down here, scan the QR code below to see what your street. So I'm going to put the street address of their property, see what that may sell for today. When they scan the QR code, they will be taken to an interactive home value and cash offer dashboard, which I'll show everybody in a minute. So here's what I'm going to replicate this postcard. By that time, we'll have the appended data. I'll add in the list. We'll order this off, and then I will walk through the email, text, ringless voicemail sequence that will be launched next week. So I'm going to go ahead and open another tab, and I'm going to log into thanks.io from the other tab because I like to try and copy and paste and be as efficient as possible. I'm going to go to image templates, and then I'm going to choose image builder. And first I'm going to select the ugly yellow version, and I'm going to name the template 45 Independence pending PC. I am going to choose to use right here. You can use the map view or the street view of the property. So the map view is looking down at the top of the property. The street view is looking at the street view of the property. I'm curious to see what happens with this, and we'll get to see in real time. We should still see while we're on. Because it's a rural area, I might have to use the map view, but we'll see. We'll play with it and we'll see before we're done here. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to change it to say 45 Independence. I struggle to, I'm going to add under contract. So 45 Independence Drive is now pending under contract. I'll put a comma. I think that's proper grammar. It wasn't the list in grammar in grammar class. I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna put in the subheader. Now, what's interesting is I have a merged field in. So this pending under contract postcard, when I built the audience that I'm this demographic circle prospecting audience, this is an area where there's a lot of absentee owners. So I built one audience that was owner occupied and one that was absentee. And so I had different marketing, getting a little bit advanced there. If that's something that you're curious about or want help with, the people at Thanks can help. We can help one way or another. We can help with that. But this audience is almost exclusively owner occupants. I removed that and I'm just going to click over here, the address. So now what I've merged in is their street address. So it'll say, scan the QR code below to see what 43 Independence Drive might sell for today. I'm going to copy and paste. Now this right here, this is my iList platform URL that is integrated with thanks.io such that when the recipient of this postcard gets the postcard and they scan the QR code on the front or the back of the postcard, they will immediately be taken to their interactive dashboard. They don't have to log in. They don't have to opt in. They don't have to anything. They immediately get taken there. And Joe and the crew over at iList, they have recently updated their servers and so forth, and it loads a lot faster now. If you've been using that for a while, didn't load super fast previously. The load speed on that has come up dramatically. If I wanted to add a logo image, top left, I could do that here. If I wanted to overlay an image to replace the ugly yellow, I could do that. I'm not doing either of those things. I'm going to click Generate Preview. There we go. And now I'm going to save the dynamic image template. So that's the front of the postcard. Now I've got to build the back of the postcard. Okay. And you'll see on the back, for those of you that are freaking out and wanting, I got to have some branding on here some way, shape, or form. Don't worry. On the back, you'll see that I've got some branding on there. So now I'm going to go to Message Templates. And I'm just going to make sure that this is saved. Okay, that's saved. I'm going to go to Message Templates, and I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to do some copy and pasting. So I've got my 342 East North pending. I've got that there, and I'm going to add a message here. So postcard is already chosen. I'm going to say 45 Independence Drive pending PC. And I'm going to copy and paste my QR code URL here. And I'm going to copy this here. And we got to make some tweaks. Drive. It's now pending and will be settling soon. If you have any questions about the property or would like the final sales price, you can text me and that's my direct cell phone. If you're curious and I'm going to merge in their address again. My cell phone in today's market, scan the QR code now to get 4 instant automated opinions of value. And I have now there twice. I'm going to remove that. Scan the QR code to get 4 instant automated opinions of value. Little tweaks, small tweaks here. So one thing I'm noticing, shame on me, I don't have my office number on this. I don't know why. And I don't remember it offhand. So I always have to go and find it. So bear with me here. Put my office number there. Before I save, I'm going to point out a few things. Number one, This, see the branding here, my silly picture, the scan me, all of that you can build in what's called the branding builder. And by the way, growwithjosh.com/thanks. Growwithjosh.com/thanks. You can get a free account and even get some free credits with thanks.io, which is what I'm building all of this out. So that's where this is being populated from. That's pulling in the branding from the branding builder right here. You do that once and then it will populate everywhere. I'm going to, what's it going to say? OFS? OFC? How do you abbreviate office? I want to make that shorter and have it fit on one line. That kind of works. The other point, two other points I want to mention, you can choose from all different types of handwriting. I personally, more often than not, I'll switch to the legacy styles and I'll choose normal print. That's worked for me. I think it's easy to read and I have evidence that it works and I haven't had any issues with it. But certainly you can play around with all of those and if you want. Now, one other thing I'll point out here before I save is if you have someone else on your team that you would like to be CC'd on when someone scans the QR code, which if you haven't heard me talk about this before, thanks.io, one of many things I love about their platform is anytime someone scans the QR code on the front or the back of this postcard, I immediately get an email that says, John scanned the QR code on the postcard you sent that looks like this. And it says it'll have the name, the address, and if when I upload the list, I include an email and a phone number, it'll even have that. And if I don't, it actually uses True People Search, which I've talked about many times, but maybe not in a while here. That's a free platform that you can skip trace and append data yourself on a one-by-one basis. It'll try and find that data for you. So a whole lot of reasons to love thanks.io. I'm going to go ahead and save. So now I have my postcard, but who am I going to send the list to? So by now, I think it's safe to say that my list will have the skip trace will be complete. So I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to refresh. And now I need to go to contacts. And under contacts, you can see in the middle here, it says skip tracing. So these are my completed skip trace batches. And now when I select, oh, that's not the list. Why is it? That was a different list. It was like, I don't know. It wasn't choosing. There we go. Now I don't know why it did that. But now I've got not just the property address, not just the mailing address, not just the names, but I've got all this additional data and information here for all of these homeowners. Look at this, pages and pages. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to export this. I'm going to upload. I'm going to do that piece of the puzzle. And then I will talk through the next steps of how we would get the data into ProEdge CRM and what that marketing looks like. It's just that we've got to scrub this list. We got to get rid of all the DNCs and there's some merging and so forth. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, I'm going to export. Now I've got my list and we need a CSV file for thanks.io. I'm going to go over to thanks and I choose mailing list, add list, upload from CSV, choose my file, export. I'm going to call this 45 Independence Drive DCP list, upload. So it's merged in first name, last name. The company name, it's choosing second contact. I didn't even know that was a field on it. Is that a field on it? I didn't even see that on here. So I'm going to deselect that. I'm going to have that, skip that. I'm going to choose street address. I want that to be the address, the city, the state, the zip. And then I'm going to, for cell, I'm going to choose phone. Email 1, I'm going to choose email. Now, it's not super important because here's the reality. For everybody that scans, I'm going to go and find what data I have on those folks, even if I didn't merge in their phone and their email to this upload process. So I'm going to save and process. Please only map each data set once. What did I double up on? First name? What am I missing here? First name, last name. It was doing the phone and I chose cell for phone. Save and process. Take a minute to populate. That's happening. Oh, James. Yeah, thanks. True people search, fast people search, and also that's them. That's them.com is another great free platform for when you're trying to track down contact information. Like you have an address and you're looking for phone and email for them, or you have a name and you know what city they live in and you're trying to track that down. That's a great use of it. Okay. You know what? Oh, there we go. It's populated. So I've got my mailing list now. We'll go back here and look at it real quick. So I've got name, address. We didn't import the birthday, but you can have that there. This guy's name is T. Not a big deal. So I've got the data in. Now we're gonna launch the postcard. There are 2 postcard sizes, 4x6, 6x9. It's up to you what you choose. As far as that goes, I'm going to choose the small one for this case. This is the front. This is the back. I'm going to change this. Just a heads up that whatever. Trying to make it conversational. Choose my list. Save and continue. Submit, order, and send mail. And what we'll be able to do here in a minute is I'll be able to show you and see for myself, is it able to find the street view of the properties? Now, I'll say that while this is rendering, you can cancel within an hour. So you have an hour window to cancel the order if you realize something's screwed up, so I did something wrong or whatever. You've got an hour window. So you'll get an email confirmation when the order is submitted, and then you'll get another email confirmation when you're past the point of no return, which is usually, like I said, about 60 minutes later. Now look at that. That is the street view of 312 Liberty Drive. Now tell me that is not going to create some curiosity on the recipient, right? That is a pattern interrupt. They see that and they are going to be curious. What is this about? And it at least gets enough attention that they might scan the QR code. And what I will tell you is, on marketing pieces like this, I would say the worst scan rate I have gotten is about 3%. The best scan rate is 10 or 11% of people that get this and actually scan the QR code. So that is the direct mail piece. And what I will do is once it's sold, I will send a version of this that is just sold. It'll be almost identical, but it'll say it just sold. Plain and simple. Here, I want to quickly share what is the other piece of the marketing that will happen. So once we clean up the list, we'll get it loaded into the ProEdge CRM. growwithjosh.com/smarty. growwithjosh.com/smarty. Make sure you hit me up for the promo code. It'll save you $50 a month. When they get loaded in here, a couple of things happen. First of all, I have to build out the workflow that will fire. And the workflow is going to do a number of things. Number one, it's going to add them to a custom audience on Facebook, so they're going to start seeing retargeting messages from me. Number two, it will fire off. In this case, it's going to be an email, a ringless voicemail, and a text message. Now, I have not built those out specifically for this one, but I do have one built out that I figure I'll just show you an example of what that looks like. Right here. We've got a DCP pending.
When you're retargeting, is that built into ProEdge where you're not having to upload that custom audience? It like actually zaps in there somehow?
Yeah. It's not even Zap. It's Go High Level has that direct integration with Facebook. So you don't have to pay to zap them. Now, I will say, and actually I'll do this in a minute. I will say that I also recommend directly uploading the custom audience on Facebook if you're able to do that. And I'll show how to do that. But for some, that might be a little bit, whatever. That might be a little bit difficult, but you can build the workflow so that it does that automatically. Okay, so the workflow is as follows. They will get an email that sounds like this. Your neighbor's home at, in this case, 45 Independence Drive is now pending, first name, Joe, James, whatever. And then the meat of the email is your neighbor's home at blank is now pending, Josh. This impacts the value of street address. If you have questions about the property or like the final sales price, just hit reply and let me know. Thanks, Josh. Full user signature. If you're curious what a buyer might pay for street address, just let us know. So we're trying to get them to reply in this particular scenario. If they don't respond, they get a little bump email. Subject line, just their first name. The content of the email, just making sure you got the email I sent a couple hours ago, question mark. Can you hit reply and let me know either way? We've been having some problems with our email system and just want to make sure. Thanks. So we're just trying to get them to respond. That's the email portion. The text is, the text and voicemail. The text is your neighbor's property at, or your neighbor's property, parentheses, the address just went pending. Curious how that impacts the value of street address? Let me know. Thanks. And then the voicemail. I don't know if you'll be able to hear this, but I'll turn it up as loud as I can.
Hey, it's Josh with eXp Realty. Just calling to give you a heads up that your neighbor's property at 120 Pine Road just went pending under contract earlier this week. This obviously, when it closes, will have an impact on your property. If you'd like to know more information or would like to be notified once the property closes, or if you're curious what a buyer might pay for your property in the current market, or about some of the unique selling options we offer, just let us know. Hope you have a great weekend, and I look forward to maybe chatting sometime soon.
So obviously that is very specific to the property. I think if you're going to do a campaign like this, you need to make it specific. Don't have it be generic. Hey, your neighbor's property just went pending, right? Like the more specific, the more real and personal it seems. And I will tell you that you'll get people that'll call back before they listen to the ringless voicemail because it shows up as a missed call. And so when you launch a campaign like this, just be ready for that. And you can say, and what I do is I say that very thing. Oh yeah, we're just reaching out because your neighbor's property at 45 Independence just went pending under contract, and you know that has an impact on the value of your home. So we were just letting you know. And also, if you'd like me to send you a link with information on, and specifically, I'm a little rusty there, but I would basically say what the voicemail is back to them again, is what I would do in that scenario. Because I teased uploading the data to a custom audience, I'll briefly show for those that might be interested how to do that directly in Facebook. And you may be using other platforms that can help you with that too. I believe Street Text, you can do that from inside their platform. And I believe it's the leads. I'm not 100% sure, but we just do it. We do it through the workflows in the CRM here, and we also will manually do it as well. So I've got to find the ad manager. And then we got to make sure that we've got the right account. We've got a lot of accounts attached here. Alchemist account. And now the three people here, that's the audiences. And you could just add it to an existing bucket. I've got a bunch of different buckets here already, or you can just go create audience, custom audience. You're going to choose customer list. I'm going to, hit next. I'm going to choose the file. No, continue with a customer list that doesn't include customer value because we don't want customer value. I'm going to call this 45 Independence DCP list. Next. And what I found to be best practices is, or best practice is, do not upload. I'll do it one where I do sell 2, sell 3, email 1, email 2, email 3. I'll import that. And I will then go back. I'm going to select. I'm going to click done here. I don't know why it like notifies you. I'm going to choose add. I'm going to choose the exact same file again. And I'm going to, in this case, I'm just going to choose the emails because I think, and I don't know this for sure, but it only takes a minute to do it. I believe it will try to map it or match email and phone. And by disconnecting them, you get a little bit potentially higher hit rate on the actual audience that you're building out there. So that got a little bit technical at the end, but there are any number of YouTube videos and instructions on how to do that. Or you can use something like the ProEdge CRM, and that can be built into the workflow, which I'm not seeing. Maybe we don't have that in this workflow. I'll have to check with Mike, but it certainly can be. And we have that built in to most of the workflow when we're building these out. So, questions, comments, thoughts, ideas. What did I miss? What do you do differently or better? Or what can you see yourself deploying this? Do you do any of this currently? Do you do just listed, pending, and just sold? Do you do it when you're the selling agent and not the listing agent? Anything's fair game.
Yeah. Hey, Josh.
Yeah.
That separate workflow for every just pending, sold, or well, yeah, for just pending, sold, and listed.
You can do it one of two ways. You could have one and just edit the templates each time. Just edit the emails, edit the SMS, and record a new ringless voicemail. Or you could duplicate the entire workflow each time. I don't know, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. From a digital clutter perspective, it probably makes sense to just have one workflow. This is my just listed workflow. This is my pending workflow. This is my just sold workflow. And if you have related, that probably makes more sense. Just triple check that before you fire it off, that the emails and the text messages and everything that it's all been updated appropriately, right? That people aren't going to get the email for the last pending property because then they're confused and annoyed, etc. Keith asked, can I get a copy of the webinar? I had to take a call from my attorney and I missed several minutes. Of course. The replay will be available immediately after in the group, and then I will email that out tomorrow as well. We also get them added. We try to get them added to YouTube. Sometimes when I show information and data like I did, we may throw a block on it. In that case, usually Facebook doesn't. So the Facebook replay is usually good. And we'll also we upload those to Vimeo and then put them on the Wake Up site as well. So one way or another, if you missed it, you want to watch it again. And this is one too that I will probably turn into more of we'll also create a guide, like a step-by-step action plan for those that might be helpful for, which I know is probably most, myself included, when doing stuff like this. So you don't forget a step or you don't miss. What do they do there? This, that, the other things. Other questions, comments, thoughts, ideas. So this is one of the reasons why I did this session is, and this is an idea that I know and I have at times lived by, but I was reminded of recently, I think by Jimmy Mackin, maybe on a Tom Ferry podcast. I don't remember exactly. But the idea of multiplying results. When you get a result, i.e. in this case, we've got our client under contract on a home in this neighborhood. How can I turn that into more results? How can I multiply that? And I will say that at times I do a better job than not, but there are so many ways that you can apply that. For example, I think I mentioned this on one of these sessions recently. The result could be a listing appointment or even a pre-listing appointment, right? Maybe you didn't even get the listing yet, but I deployed a campaign like what we just described Now, I think in this case, I don't know that I did the direct mail piece. I just did the digital piece. But I had a Zoom meeting with a formerly expired listing. As soon as I had that scheduled, I built a list in PropStream of his neighbors with some additional filtering, and I used that result to try and get more opportunities in the neighborhood. The messaging was a little bit different because it wasn't about the neighbor's property going pending under contract, but it's an example of trying to find as many ways you can when you get a positive result to turn that into more positive results. And that's something I'm so committed to. I can't show you because here, but I've got a sticky note that I permanently affixed right down here on my laptop that says multiply results. So I'm constantly looking on that and being reminded of that idea. What can I do to multiply results? What can I do to take something good and turn it into more good? And sometimes it's as simple as being grateful for the result too, right? Making sure that you're celebrating those things, right? And by doing so, sometimes you find ways or more results that could come, right? You celebrate the fact that, oh, I helped this person. Then you remember, oh, geez, this person is like that person. I haven't talked to that person in a while. Maybe I should reach out and let them know, hey, you're in a similar scenario to Bill, and we just helped Bill and Susie get pre-approved and are under contract now. Isabel, how do you check if some of the home addresses are active? In the filtering, the first thing I always do is check not on market. And I'll show that again, just because it is relevant. When you go in the search, so I'll just put whatever. I'll just put all of Cumberland County because I think my filters got wiped. But if I do all of Cumberland County and then I go filter, the first thing I'm going to do right here, MLS status, I'm going to choose not on market. Now, I will say that data in PropStream is not 100% foolproof. So it is possible that someone will get through. Now, but what I will also say is I can demonstrate to someone, if a listing agent got all hot and bothered, Mr. or Mrs. Listing Agent, I didn't specifically target your property, and I intentionally built the list in a way that was supposed to exclude any on-market properties. Anytime you're doing marketing, there's a chance that something, whatever. But as long as you're you're doing your best to follow the rules of ethics and so forth, I think you're safe. JC, that is what I want to learn to multiply results. So I think it's just finding as creative ways as possible. This is one that maybe you have less control over, but just talking about the results that you got in real content or posts on Facebook is another great way. Now, you don't want to, I think the way to do that well is not to spotlight or make it about you, but about the result you got for the client. How can you frame that in a way that it's not, look at me, I'm great, but telling the story of the client so that whoever is getting the client or whoever's seeing the content might make the connection. Oh, those two are like us. Maybe it's the person that's seeing it, or somebody at work's been talking about X or Y or Z, and it seems like maybe that could be a good fit for them. Any other? Oh, we're at the top of the hour, but I actually don't have a hard stop today. JC said this Zoom was awesome. Thank you, JC. I appreciate it. And Lisa this is a good point as well. Lisa mentioned in the comments on the live stream, you could always put a disclaimer on the card as well, which I think I have a disclaimer in the brand builder that does actually say that. It's very small, but I think in the brand builder on my postcard, I believe there is that, and you could add a similar disclaimer to your email. Now you can't do it with an SMS because it would just be too long and whatever, but I think that is a good point, because some of you are in markets where agents are very diligent about trying to hammer other agents. Let's just face it. And the reality is we're not trying to take anybody else's client or business. We're just trying to create more opportunities for ourselves. Okay, housekeeping items. Once again, the replay will be available immediately after. We will also take this and turn it into more of a step-by-step action plan for those that may be interested. All of the resources that I used in here are outlined in the doc at growwithjosh.com/tech. Those are all affiliate links. If you sign up, I get a little bit of a commission. Helps me feed these kids that I hear are already starting to come home on a half day before Thanksgiving. But those PropStream and Thanks.io and the ProEdge CRM and iList, the links are all in there for those that want to check those out, all of which come with some type of free trial or money back guarantee, things of that nature. And most importantly, and I think most of you here today are in the States, I hope you all have a very happy Thanksgiving. Next week, we're going to have Burton with PropStream. Talk about the new UI and some updated data sets. I think they have some updated data filters that I didn't really get into, but we'll get into that as well. Of course I can, Bill. So it's growwithjosh.com/tech. And all that is a Google Doc that has all of those links in it. Thanks for asking, Bill. All right. Once again, I appreciate you all. I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving, and I hope to see you all next week, same time, same place. Take care, all.